And now we take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Justice Ariwoola has retired as Chief Justice of Nigeria after 2 years. He used the occasion to make a case for the appointment of more judges and the need to limit the number of cases that get to the Supreme Court. Arise correspondent Godfrey Eshemoge has more.
It is the end of an era. Justice Ariwoola retires at the mandatory age of 70. He leaves as the 18th Chief Justice of Nigeria after 2 years in office. His was a period marked by controversies bordering on appointments of his family members as judges, as well as into other key positions in the justice sector. But there were also judicial milestones. Under Ariwoola's watch, the Supreme Court got the constitutionally prescribed full complement of 21 justices for the first time in known history. It was also in his time that the Apex Court addressed the Naira redesign issue and recently okayed autonomy of local governments. In his farewell speech, Justice Ariwoola says fair hearing is only meaningful if there are enough judges to hear cases.
It is antithetical to the concept of justice when litigants are made to wait for years in order to have their cases determined. As a justice of the Supreme Court, it was always a sobering moment for me whenever an appeal was called to be heard and a learned counsel stood up to inform the court that the appellant or the respondent was late. He had died. In effect, the litigant had died without his appeal being determined one way or the other.
He further restated the need to limit the number of cases that find their way to the Supreme Court.
Access to justice should not be regarded as uncontrolled and unfiltered liberty to bring all forms of cases to the Supreme Court. It is my belief that we trivialize the institution of the Supreme Court as a court of policy when every form of litigation is able to meander its way to the Apex Court. It also diminishes the judicial importance of the Court of Appeal, that very important appellate court, when every one of its decisions must be reviewed by us here. I dare say that if there is another court that is superior to Supreme Court, many cases will find their way to that court of tyranny and oppression.
Earlier, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice said the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy is final.
We are not unaware of the threats and noise of reprisal attack by some, although not all, of the principalities affected by the epic and locus classicus judgment of the Supreme Court, who are threatening fire and brimstone in a matter that has been settled and laid to rest, finally by our court. The point must be made that their action in this regard amounts to hovering around the principles of contempt of court. I urge my colleagues at the subnational level, the attorneys general, to affected by this, to eradicate, to educate and offer sound legal advice, even though it is tried and true elementary. It should be tried and true elementary to everybody that no appeal lies against the decision of the Supreme Court.
The Justice Ariwoola era ends as he takes his final bow, ushering that of Justice Kudirat Kekereekun as the new Chief Justice of Nigeria. Godfrey Eshemoge, Arise News.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday congratulated the retiring Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN, Justice Ariwoola, saying his leadership of the judiciary has been impactful and inspiring for the country's jurisprudence. Tinubu described Ariwoola's sojourn on the bench as a testament to the reward for hard work, dedication, and service to country and humanity. Tinubu, in a release by his media advisor, Ajuri Ngelale, commended the eminent jurist for his services to the nation, noting his impactful leadership of the judiciary and his efforts in enriching the Nigerian jurisprudence as well as strengthening the fiber of the law. Following Ariwoola's retirement, Nigeria is set to appoint its second female Chief Justice as President Bola Tinubu will swear in Justice Kudirat Kekereekun on Friday. Justice Kekereekun's appointment marks a historic moment following Justice Aluma Mukhtar, Nigeria's first female Chief Justice from July 2012 to November 2014. All right, Rotus, today it is goodbye to the old and welcome to the new, but of course amidst accolades and a review of his performance in the last 2 years as Chief Justice of Nigeria. Your take on the story?
Yeah, there was the saying, the arc of the moral universe is long, but bends towards justice. Yeah, he's had a fantastic career. I think about timelines, I returned home in, 2010, and he was elevated to the Supreme Court in 2011, yes. I believe, yeah. 2011. And then before that, he served as Justice of the Court of Appeals in Kaduna, Enugu, and Lagos. So he's got a pretty stellar career, and he did take some shots before bowing out, saying that there's a lot of frivolous cases that shouldn't even make it to the Supreme Court, that should be dealt with at the appellate courts. He's calling for more spending, essentially, by saying that the judiciary should be expanded so that you've got essentially more supply to meet the demand of cases that get there. And he made a great point, saying that, if you want to meet justice, you've got to have efficiency. So you've got to have more lawyers hearing these cases. And he talked about the fact that they shouldn't be waiting so long to hear these cases. So well done to him. I think he's also got a book out as well on his time. Yes, he does. All right, Rufai, Justice Ariwoola, CJN.
Yeah. Justice Ariwoola, kudos to him as he bows out. He's got his own plaudits, but he's also got his own knocks. Let me start with the plaudits. Some of the reforms in the judiciary. For the very first time, we had a complement of our full judges sitting on the bench. Yep. That was after the likes of Justice Datijo in his valedictory service had complained bitterly about that. Also, under him, we'll talk about more welfare, because there's been more welfare in the judiciary and all of that. I think the salaries of the judges are now 3x. President Tinubu recently passed it. And kudos to President Tinubu as regards, taking care of the judiciary. That's one thing that, leading up to his campaign, he did promise. Yeah. But a lot of other people will talk about ex parte orders. The fact that we had a lot of forum shopping and errant judgments being given here and there. It was so bad under him that a justice had to be defending his judgment in an election petition case in public. We also cannot forget the squabble. For the very first time, people like me will marvel at the fact that something that's supposed to be a CBN independent matter on monetary policy had to be decided by the Supreme Court. But anyway, they assumed the decision because they said it was a matter that concerned personal interest of people and interest of Nigerians. Also, we cannot forget what happened as regards family members. Chidi Odunkalu had a very scathing remark as regards family members being put into the judiciary or they going up the ranks because they had associations and things like that. Also, we can also forget many discordances as regards the election petition cases, back and forth with the judiciary. But in going forward, I would also like to refer to that Justice Datijo's valedictory statement. And I think one thing that Justice Kekereekun should come in, the reform she should make is the one-man show that harassed the Nigerian judiciary, that the CGN is the head of the Privileges Committee, the Disciplinary Committee, and the likes, and other committees out there in the judiciary. It does not augur well that you give so much power to the CGN, So I think if you can split all of that, then we can have a veritable means forward.
Well, Justice Olukayode Ariwoola, born 70 years ago, yesterday was his 70th birthday in Iseyin, Oyo State. And just talking about some of the things, just to build on some of the things he's done, part of which is the pension reform for retired justices, ensuring that they get their full salary upon retirement. Also, the retirement age for judges as well, moving from 65 to 70 years. And let's not forget the financial autonomy for local government under his tenure. These are some of the things, in addition to others that have been mentioned, that would be seen as some of his legacy as Chief Justice of Nigeria. Recall that he had also paid attention or asked that the recommendations from the National Justice Summit, which held earlier this year, convened by the Attorney General of the Federation, Ministry for Justice, and the NBA, had some recommendations that ought to be taken forward. One of which is still that conversation around the process by which judges are appointed, to look into that and make it a more independent and transparent process. The second, of course, is funding for the courts. We've often talked about the state of the courts in Nigeria, not just at the Supreme Court level, but but at different levels of courts across the country. And that if they must function well, then they must be properly funded, well funded. We go to some of the courthouses, an embarrassing sight to behold. So some of the things that was pushed by the National Justice Summit. The other part of it also was just to ensure that the process or the timeline for settling matters and cases is made shorter. He still alluded to that during his speech yesterday. So, in many schools of thought around how they review his tenure, his time in office, but he's bowing out and is leaving with him a legacy. Judging with Justice, an autobiography written by him, was a book presented yesterday. Now, congratulations to the incoming Justice Kudirat Kekere Ekun. A lot of work ahead of her, and already people are already setting the agenda for her.